Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 20th of October 2025 and here we are finally at the big juncture as we come very, very close to the big blue Kachina, which looks more red here, but this here is actually Jupiter. And this is the big red Kachina. So this was the big blue Kachina and this is the big red Kachina. And you'll notice the way the light is hitting it here. You know, when we're in November, we'll be directly behind it. So it's very confusing because this is way beyond the sun and this is in front of the sun. This is in the kind of what we would perceive as the November position. And when we're around about November the 22nd, we'll be directly behind this. The sun will be directly in front of it, so it'll be just silhouetted, and this, like I say, is behind the sun. And this was posted by is it Turkey Report, Turkey UFO Report, I believe. Yeah, sorry, there it is there, on the 18th of October. That's just gone, so that's an incredible shot. And so we're going to be discussing lots and lots. This is going to be quite a big video, got lots to cover. So I'd really recommend getting yourself comfortable if you're up for it. Getting yourself comfortable, and it's going to be. We've got lots and lots and lots to cover. We've got lots and lots of videos because it was probably coming on to 2, 3, maybe even a month since my last video. But and it's a very, very big thing to discuss with everything that's going on. We've got lots and lots to cover. So let's start with there was another Turkey UFO report. I was going to bounce to another one actually. I was going to jump straight to Pete Hegseth's speech, or more specifically to something that just recently happened to him. Yeah, this story here. Pete Hegseth's plane forced to make emergency landing in the UK after a crack in the windshield. Now, I found this very interesting because he just came out with his incredible speech in front of 2,000, I think, generals, where he talked about do unto one as you would. How's the phrase going? How's the phrase go? Do unto one as you would have done unto yourself. I think it was more or less the sentiment of the phrase, but he likened that to having only young people in the army, getting rid of all the fat people, anyone who's, you know, it was quite an incredible speech really. But and then he talked about hunting down, and you're there to break things and kill. You know, the army's there to break things and kill people, and to hunt down and kill your enemies. And this is how he relates to do unto one as you would have done unto yourself. I mean, it was the most peculiar, terrifying speech I've ever heard in my entire life. And then he's flying in a tiny little, because this just happened again. Ironically, I think. I'm going to come to Ophelia as well, and we're going to talk about the No Kings protest, and ironically a Boeing 737, this was just posted by I can't remember what EHART stands for. I think it's Energetic Energy Arts. My ex-partner calls them Mork and Mindy. I say it's not Mork and Mindy, it's Mike and Cindy. But they run a fantastic channel, they really do. They run a few channels actually, and they're really, really worth kind of like following. But it's on his arm, you know, something's happened here, and something smashed through the windscreen, and notice that they had to redirect to Denver Airport. Now, what is Denver Airport famous for that they got rid of? You know, there's a massive message here. Because you remember when I made my video back in, let's just go back up here and go to YouTube, and then just flick over to my channel. View your channel. What was that, by the way? What was that flood we were just seeing there? Just more flooding, crazy flooding all around the globe at the moment, isn't there? We're going to talk about all of this, but view your channel. Remember when I made this video 5 months ago, when we first entered into Asteroid Alley, and I said we enter into Asteroid Alley, and an asteroid then hit my skylight and landed on the carpet of my boat, smashed the window, and ironically it didn't do any more damage than smash the window, and the window took the shock. It didn't go through the hull of the boat, even though, I mean, it's a 10mm hole, but it just landed on the carpet. It didn't damage the wood, didn't damage the carpet, but it just smashed the reinforced glass everywhere and then just landed on the carpet. Just after I said that we're entering into the what I call Asteroid Alley, and we would be in Asteroid Alley right through till right now, which is just about coming to the end of it, where the object has now the celestial object that all this debris is following, and now we're it's making its exit now. It's just made its exit, and we're going to explore all of this in the video. And I said that this would be the final exit point, and now we come to the final exit point. And of course, this is where our planet comes closest, not to the object itself, but the debris in its tail. The object's actually passed, and we're going to explore all that. But ironically, you know, he's forced to make a landing. Now, after Pete Hegseth's big speech, his terrifying speech, which was all after Trump had come on and talked about how he's going to war with California. This is about homeland security, not about going to war with other nations. This is about going to war for America. For Trump, this is about going to war with the left wing. And his whole speech, Pete Hegseth's speech, seemed to be all about going to war. You know, if it's following what Trump said immediately before, it's all about going to war with the American people, about going to war with anything they see as basically anti-Christian. And for him means he translates the meaning of Christianity in a really, really terrifying fashion. It's much more akin to how the Romans ruled, rather than the message of Christ. You know, he's turned the message of Christ into something really quite demonic and terrifying. And he's been given a message directly after that. The smallest particle hit the windscreen of his plane, giving him a message saying, you want to go to war with the people, you're going to war with the gods. Now that's the smallest, tiniest particle that can come down. You can imagine if this thing decides, if he chooses to go to war with humanity and impose that, he knows what's coming. He's been given his message there, and there's a real clear message why that second particle hit the windscreen and the plane was forced to land in Denver. Because you all know, because you understand that, you know, my generation, as in when I was born in 68, on the 7th of November 1968, you know, and in that generation, we were kind of, you know, comets came once every 76 years, you know, and then, like I say, suddenly they've turned up like the buses, and now you've got so many comets coming in, and obviously it's all part of the same system, but we can't believe that. And at the same time, as where I was born in the generation of one comet every 76 years, I was also born in the generation of seeing is believing. That was the narrative that was given to us, our school narrative, seeing is believing. And of course now we all know that seeing isn't believing. Believing is choosing not to see. Is to put an artificial wall of something in front of you which blocks the truth of what is sitting right in front of us all. the very clear message that we're seeing. Countless people are showing the most incredible shots of it, and now, no, seeing is no longer believing. Seeing is, like I say, choosing not to see what's right in front of you. So in the last video, we're going to go through this whole stretch now, and we're probably going to end with Ophelia, because ironically I was quite offended actually at first. I saw kind of Taylor Swift all over my YouTube feed, and I thought, what do I want to see Taylor Swift? And then I listened to the song and I realised it was about Ophelia, as in Hamlet, as in from the play Hamlet. And we're gonna end with that, because it was a very interesting message that she unwittingly or wittingly or unwittingly has given us. So let's start. What we got here? Oh no, empowering yourself for free. That's a little course I was just looking at about doing about electric motors, because I've been looking at electric motors just lately. But so we're going to start here with, because Calvin Looking for Hobbs sent me a little message, and a little kind of like, he said he'd love to come for a little trip on the boat sometimes if you ever come to UK, and I would love that. I'd love to probably meet him. He was the one who caught this shot on the 15th of October 2020, and it was an incredible shot. And then of course what happened was, I'd seen this shot, I'd seen Mr. MBB 333 post this shot, and I was asking you guys, the audience, if they knew the date, and someone had posted and said, oh, it was right at the end of July. And I'd said, I bet you I'd said in the previous video, I'm suspecting that's probably about the end of July, the beginning of August, when we had the big it wasn't a big tsunami, but it was a tsunami and earthquakes in the Kamchatka Peninsula. And I'd said that on that day, on the first neap moon, that if this object was indeed coming in, we'd get incredible sightings of it, and we'd see the oceans bunching up in the northern hemisphere, and likely see seismology, and likely see kind of like oceanic anomalies in the form of potential tsunamis, or certainly tidal surges and everything else like that. And and then it turns out that then you, the audience, one of the members of one of my subscribers, got in contact and said, Dave, it happened exactly when you said it would happen. And I explored that in the last video, obviously, and was that and let's just, just to recount the seismology of what we're actually seeing. We've got this up here, list of earthquakes in 2025, and we've got some lunar calendars up here, so we can bounce between these. So let's just come back to this, because we're going to need all of these to try and make sense of this. And I'm afraid you're going to have to work with me here a little bit, because it's been a long time since I made a video, and I've been dealing with a lot myself, and just making these videos and putting myself out there, especially seeing the type of data that we've got coming in, and what we know, what is about to happen, the debris that we're about to fly through. Because this is making its exit trajectory. So let's just have a quick look at that. A list of which is by magnitude. Let's go by magnitude. So that was the big earthquake that we predicted, that we knew that was going to come in if this object was indeed coming in, as I was suggesting it would. And let's have a little look at. So that was. So moon phases, I wonder if there's one that's just got the whole year's worth. Let's do August first of all. First quarter. And then we got, sorry, let's come to the 31st, first quarter. and then so we can see, and then let's go now to September again. Hopefully I'm going to make the noise of the fans disappear. So that was on the 30th of September. Is that listed on these? It's not even listed on this one. Don't think, unless it's... When was the third quarter? So I'd said that if we'd seen it on the first quarter, then if this thing's coming in and going past us and it's going to cut through and go out back to from whence it came and go back into, if you like, beyond our Earth's orbit and out into the kind of night sky, so to speak, or for us the night sky, and past us, then it would be affecting us on the third quarter, and admittedly yes, on the new moon, and then on the full moon or the new moon. On the new moon, where the moon's in between the Earth and the Sun, and which was the 21st of September, and then the last quarter was September the 14th. And what date was that? That was the 30th of September. This will all start making a little bit more sense, hopefully. What was the 30th of September? Oh yeah, okay, first quarter again. So we're still seeing that kind of effect where we've got, it's still on the, it's still affecting us on the first quarter. So we can see it coming in, but it's slowly going past us, and it's affecting the first quarter moon again. Okay, so we're starting to 30th of September, tidal surge again. You're seeing the same thing, and then we start seeing the most incredible cloud formations. This was posted by World of Signs, and I just found that really amazing, that shot there, because it's like, it's the face you see on the Catholic, on the churches, isn't it? The kind of, I can't remember what you call those like demon kind of creatures, or these dragons or whatever they call them. But isn't that face quite interesting, that it should show you that face in the clouds there? I don't know if he's got, and then you've got this incredible sky going on. You know, these incredible colours in the sky, where all the tail of this object is up there, and you're just seeing this incredible sort of stuff. I wonder what else he's posted there in terms of. And then that shot as well, and I found that very interesting, because this is in my mind, this is now traversing, going into the night sky, and which means it's going to start affecting the third quarter, as in the other side of, you know, you can imagine that. Let me just, how can I best show you that? Maybe I can show you on ironically, Pete Hegseth talking about the sort of like 3rd, 4th century Rome, or what we would see the kind of the creation of the point where the Roman Catholic Church had been created in Constantinople, where the Romans had retreated to after Rome had fallen in 262, basically. And so that's this point here, and then we come forward. I don't know if you can hear those. Boom, boom. Can you hear that? That's the bombs going off on Salisbury Plain, where they're training as I'm understanding it, allegedly the Ukrainian troops to fight the Russians. We're very close to it here. It's very, very ominous sound. and then we keep coming forward to 1500s, Kepler, Galileo, it was this would have been Copernicus. Then Galileo, the first dwarf planet. Isaac Newton. Galileo, Kepler, his 3 rules of orbital mechanics, and then we come to kind of like Isaac Newton, and then kind of William Herschel, and then it's going to be Pluto, and then it's going to be the big 1859, the Carrington event. Then obviously Pluto, the discovery of Pluto, and then we come into this big cycle here where we see the kind of what we can say is the massive patterns and all the seismology we've seen over the last kind of like since 1939, since the 20th of January 1939, and where Carlos Ferrada predicted the massive earthquake would happen in Chile on the 20th of January 1939. And the big blue object would be very close to us, as it's about to come very, very close to us at the end of November, as we're seeing all the shots of it coming in, and this big system becomes so close to us at the point of crossing, and we start seeing all of these patterns. And you can imagine if we come to you can imagine that when an object's coming in, where's the Earth? Earth is here, coming round, and if we come to 2011, and we see this object coming up, these 2 objects, there's a pair of them, but this is what caused Fukushima. And you can imagine when an object comes up under the sun, it's very close to the Earth. As the moon is going round the Earth in this direction, anti-clockwise. If the object is on, in this case it's the reverse, or kind of reverse way round, because it's coming in on the opposite side and then going out this side. And when it comes in, so to speak, if it's on this side, so which is the new moon side, the new moon is over here, so the first quarter would be here, and then the full moon, and then the third quarter, and then back to the new. And in this case it affected the first quarter moon, and so you saw Fukushima happened on the first quarter moon, because in this case it pulled the moon down and it made the oceans bunch up in the southern hemisphere. And then when it goes past, depending on the mathematics of it, and the what do they call it? The telemetry, or the telemetry basically of its movements. If on one side if it's affecting this side, then it affects the first quarter. If it affects this side, it affects the third quarter moon. These are the neat moons, and this is new, and this is, like I say, full. And but obviously we're unfortunately, because the way this model works, I always assumed it was going across like this, but of course it's actually looping right round and coming out over here. And I tried to make those corrections in my latest model, and as I often explain, I've got these 2, the Sun and Pluto, or Neptune, or Uranus, or Jupiter, or the blue Kachina, which is what it really is, or the red and the blue Kachina, because that's really the red Kachina with the blue Kachina coming round, which I call Hydra in this model. But it's a very, very confusing thing, unfortunately. But anyway, just to try and explain the kind of relativity of the moons in this of the first quarter and the third quarter. And I'm sorry, this is a bit of a bitty video, and I've done this so many times that you guys must be so bored of it. I'm like an old record, I know it, but I don't know what else to do other than go through this, and then we'll come into the bigger meaning of what all this represents, because there's a much bigger story that we're going to go through here. But, and apologies about if it's We don't want that one. So that was another shot from, who was that? Who posted that? Turkey UFO report. It keeps posting the red Kachina because we're getting amazing shots of it at the moment. And the red Kachina effectively has the same orbit patterns as the blue Kachina because they basically orbit each other. You know, they're rather than just going round, rather than the blue Kachina just going round in a perfect circle, it seems to move in a like pair of nunchuckers flying through the air, except that this is much bigger than the big blue Kachina. So there's a wobble, and there's a distinct wobble because this changes position. And obviously this moves in conjunction with the second biggest object, which is the big blue Kachina. So they have this kind of odd orbital relationship where we're getting lots and lots of shots of them at the moment. This was very interesting. This was Mavi UFO Alarm, and he posted this. I wonder if it comes up over a date. He posted this ironically at the end of September. And doesn't that look like an object that's passed us and all the debris in its tail, and finally gone into the night sky? That was Mavi UFO report as well. This is our big blue Kachina. We're finally getting these amazing shots of it. This was posted again 30th of September. Incredible shot. Debris flying, potentially, or just orbs, but potentially debris flying by. When was that? That was posted September 30th again. Who was that? Who posted this one? Turkey UFO report. You know, these are all shots from FAA, you know, Alaskan webcams. You know, and a lot of the skywatchers use skycams because they get so attacked for people saying, oh, it's fake, this and that sort of stuff, that they take the shots directly from the webcam, so that they haven't been AI'd, they haven't been messed around with, they haven't had, you know, they put them through certain filters to get a better view of what you're seeing. But this was posted by China Observer, and they've been having the most incredible sightings of two suns and incredible skies. They've had all this red dust coming down. They've had all the red rain coming in, and so this was October the 4th. You know, and this was the same video, but you know, they've had red rain, red skies, most incredible phenomenon. They just can't explain. Well, we can explain it obviously because we know what it is. We know it's the kind of the iron dust that's in the tail of this object, which is what the red dwarf spews out. It doesn't spew out photons and helium. This is spewing out iron. This is what is fusing. It's a much denser, heavier object than our sun. You know, and I thought that was quite interesting. That was October the 16th. It floods. We get a tidal surge in America, and obviously in Alaska and all the rest of it. Massive surge. Ironically, right on the last quarter. What is the 16th? The 16th is sorry, that was the 16th of October, wasn't it? Let me just go back to that. Did I just see the 16th of October there? I don't remember where I was last time. The 16th of October. Let's go to October. So notice it's we get the last quarter, and we're like just after. We're just after, but you notice that it started around just before. It started almost around this sort of date, because these are the dates where the storms come in, and then that's where the tidal surge occurs. Very interesting. You know, it's exactly what I said you're going to see. And notice that was very similar to the World of Signs shot, being caught over the China skies. I'm wondering what the hell is it. And of course, this is the object passing us and going into the night sky. Obviously, you know, you've been given all these stories about Comet 3i Atlas and Comet Swan and Comet Lemon and the other Comet Atlas and so much other activity going on in the sky, and of course it's all part of this big system. They're all around us, and we can't bring all this story together to the one simple story, which is the red and the blue Kachina of the Hopi prophecies, the very thing that all the kind of like 2012 was going to tell you was going to come in when you saw the massive tsunami strike in 2011, just as this big system comes in. But because you've got the sun made of hydrogen going into helium, the lightest atom on the periodic table going into the second lightest atom on the periodic table, which you're assuming to be made of the lightest atoms, to be the heaviest, biggest player in this system, where everything revolves around in these massive orbits, sometimes massive orbits. And so we can't look at the whole system, because we live in a belief system that turns everything upside down and reverses every meaning, even the very meaning of the deity that we, the Christians, supposedly follow. And we turn the message of turning the other cheek, of kind of do unto one as you would have done unto yourself, into just absolute fascist, go out and kill your neighbour, literally. How we could end up in this situation, I do not know, but this is what happens when, it's because of the revelations, isn't it? The beautiful story of Jesus' life, and then you put the most horrific story at the end of it, which is Revelations, and this is the apocalyptic end that the Christians lock onto, unfortunately, and they fulfill this agenda. And we're going to talk about that as well, what this agenda really is. But let's just get through all these shots. That was Turkey UFO report, just showing, like I say, FAA cams at the moment, as in Alaskan webcams. That was Last Messages, and nice to see. They've come back and made some more videos, because they stopped making videos back in, their last video was back in 2000 and ironically, he posted an incredible video in 2022, and he didn't get many views, and I could see that he didn't get that many views, and it was the most incredible video, because he caught the object that we're seeing now, that is just flying by us now, the debris. He caught that in June 2022, and he got very little views on it, and it was the most incredible video with the most incredible data, and it was a bit like Neil Martin, his last video, basically in around about the 13th of January 2017, where he just showed the most incredible videos, the most incredible data. People just weren't interested. They just can't look at it, because ironically he himself is just waiting for Jesus to come, not realizing that this is the Son of God, as in the son of another system, that this is really all has always been about. The big blue Kachina, the big red Kachina, this big system that we've written the whole thing just to blind you from, so you can't see this, so you can't make sense of it, because you live in a heliocentric model. You can't see what's hidden right under your nose, which is a system that was on the £1 note. This is the system, this is the model you really live in. This is the point of crossing that you're going through right here. This is our Earth. This is our sun and its planets. At this point of crossing, we have 2 points of crossing, the time of this point here and this point here. This is the model you really live in. This was on the 50p coin. I never realised it was on the £1 note as well. I've been hidden in plain sight my whole life. I've been using it as tender. This was the tiny little leather-bound, telescope that he built to. This is because the system was right here. It didn't need a super powerful system, a telescope, because it was right. They were passing us just like they're passing us now. You could just see them blatantly. And you're at this point right here. This is your crossing point, and this was Carlos Ferrada's time, or this would have been Galileo's time, and this would have been Isaac Newton's time. In our cycle, this was 1939. This is now. And this is about a 20-year kind of passage, you know, between the two, and a 20-year passage between this point here. And that was obviously on the 16th of October, just where you come to it, except this was much further ahead of us. This was way into the night sky, as you're seeing it coming up to this point. It's going to take a few years to get to this point, where it's crossing kind of like the orbit of Mars, not crossing the orbit of Earth. So you're seeing it as a distant object there in 2016, caught by Jeff P. Well, it was a webcam again. Like you say, this, you know, Jeff P. was posting lots and lots of this stuff back, you know, 12 years ago, more than that, you know, and he caught this most incredible shot on a webcam at like 10, 11 o'clock at night, looking northeast, right where in the night sky, where ironically Mars was, and Mars gets blasted by a plasma shot. You know, you would have thought Wal Thornhill would have been so excited to see that shot, but not a mention from Wal there. Of course, he's well, he is what he is. He does what he does. But the most incredible shots again, and then we're like, when was that? These were all shots around the October the 9th. So we get lots of seismology. Ironically, you know, you see this little burst of energy all comes in round about the 9th of October. So just remind ourselves what was happening on the 9th of October. So on the 9th of October, we'd had the full moon. So the moon is the furthest point away from the Earth, away from the sun. It's kind of behind the Earth. You have the sun, the Earth, and then the moon. And then the moon's going to be coming around, heading toward the third quarter. And then we get to the, what date was that? Coming to these. We said the October the 9th. October the 9th. So we just passed the full moon, and so this object, in my opinion, it's very confusing, because we've got various different objects affecting us here. And so it could be that the actual the twin tail object with all the debris had gone past us, and it could be that, but obviously it could be this as well. It's directly, but there's the sun, there's the object, and the big blue Kachina hiding behind the clouds. You might think that's a lens flare that hides behind the clouds. Incredible shot. Who posted that? That was posted again by, I think it's going to be Turkey UFO Report again. So bless you, Turkey UFO Report, for your continuous posting of this data and putting yourself out there and getting this stuff up there and being the most incredible sky watcher that you are. You know, I see this little picture here of this, what looks like, we don't know who Turkey UFO Report really is, other than we see this picture that looks like a woman, doesn't it, with her hair down here. So I'm assuming it's a her. We don't know much about her. I'm assuming it's a she, but thank you for all your effort and all your work getting this up there. You've done it for many, many years, and you get so few views for all of your effort and so few subscribers, that you clearly do it like I do it just because you know you have to. Because if you don't do it, who will? Who will? Who's got the courage to do this? Very few. So for all you sky watchers out there, you've got the courage to speak truth. I struggle so much, because when people can't look at this, I struggle to look at them, because I feel they make me, if they can't talk about this and they can't look at this, it makes me feel insane. It makes me feel totally insane, like I'm a madman. Where those who can't look at any of this data, they can't look at the massive earth changes, the massive increases in volcanoes and earthquakes that are happening, and the seismology and the most breathtaking signs, the most incredible tempests that are coming in all the time. And again, October the 10th, what was that? This was the last messages. Again, I just posted that up. That was on. It says 6 hours ago, but I've got a funny feeling we're going to see that was October the 10th. Seismology. That was UFO Mavi alarm. He makes a Mavi UFO alarm again. That was posted on the 11th. We're getting the red dust coming through again, just as we expect as this object passes us by, and the debris. Remember, every part, and well, let's come back now to this. He makes his big speech, and then suddenly the tiniest particle hits the windscreen of his plane, and his plane is forced to make an emergency landing. And this is a message from the gods, directly from the real gods, not the god that he represents, the god of the peas. I'm not going to say what the peas mean, but I'm just going to swamp. And that's who he represents, because that's his religious base is run by. The ones that turn everything around and turn the message of love into the message of hate, the message of peace into the message of war. That's driving my country, that we want to dump the depleted you-know-what all over the market garden of Europe. Allegedly, it's the over 60s that they're training now up there, because you can guess why. This is Britain. Remember my book, Laughing Gas? Britain being used as the Trojan horse, published in 2011. Britain being used as the Trojan horse to break up the European alliance and feed Europe into war against Russia to make America great again. Remember when he turned up on the elections in Germany and did his big speech in Germany and got the left wing out, had the biggest kind of like political influence, and destroyed the left wing in a speech, likening the left wing to the agenda that Keir Starmer is running for. Who's about to be put at the head of Gaza. Which is, I call Blair Proslero in this book, because when I put a play on the night of the election in 2000, I think it was 2005, and we'd run candidates and that sort of stuff, and the political party at that time was the Rubbish Party, and it was all about turning rubbish into gold, and Bob Dobbs had come to Harold, who ran a recycling yard, in my play, and taught him how to turn rubbish into gold, and they'd taken the machine that turned rubbish into gold, and they'd put it in the back of the election house and recycled all the wasted votes, as in got those who never voted, who just believed that don't vote, it only encourages them, which is the program that they'd put into you to they repulse you out of your political power to choose better. They repulse you out of that arena so they can do heinous things to your world, and they brought the people that didn't vote back into the arena, which is why I do all my political stuff and my colourful kind of, when I go and run, and I dress up in bright yellow suits and kind of like and I get involved in the political system, and that helps other people get involved, and that's how we got the first Green candidate in Brighton, by getting screaming fans in front of the Green candidate, and suddenly people could believe that the Green candidate could win, and we've got the first Green candidate in the country as a result of that. But anyway, Pete, we'll let Pete go now. giant red something, well, it doesn't say anything, but giant red behind the sun 2025. When was that posted? That was October the 13th. World of Signs, incredible shot there. Whatever that is. You just see so many shots of it. Well, there's our Rekachina again. Nice incredible shot. That was Turkey UFO report again. When was that posted? That was on 14th. That was recently. And then we get this big Egyptian pyramid Masonic rave. And remember, this whole agenda is about what they're really bringing in. You know, before, when the water from the Great Flood, you know, when I ran for the Mayor of Bristol and the Mayor of London, I obviously didn't pay the £10,000 to run for Mayor of London. You know, it's obviously just, it's all fixed. But and you give all your power, all the democratic power that you once won, you give it all over to a single person, and they do what they do. And so you have very little power left when you have a mayor. You give all your power away. Is Dave Dobbs insane to believe the water from the Great Flood came from Mars? Because all the evidence is that our oceans came from Mars, along with our moon. And when Earth is done, on Mars, when they were talking about, it would have been the big kind of like the big agenda would have been Earth. Earth would have been, where we have now, kind of like the idea of the new dawn, if you like. The new dawn, the kind of like the Luciferian agenda. The Luciferian agenda in today is kind of like the new dawn. Is we always consider the rising planet, as in the Luciferian kind of planet is Venus, because we wouldn't be going back to Mars, would we? We left Mars to come to Earth and took over Earth. The Martians, as it were, came here, bought their oceans. They're kind of Noachian, as in the Martian. The Martians came here, clearly. They bought their oceans and their moon. They needed to bring their moon because the oceans couldn't exist without a moon. They wouldn't be salty. And because the moon makes the sea salty because of the carbon dioxide. Because the moon makes the oceans take 1/3 of all our carbon dioxide and turns the oceans into, the carbon dioxide will immediately join the water and become carbonic acid, and the carbonic acid, 2 molecules of carbonic acid, as in CO2 and H2O, merged as a single molecule, with now 3 atoms of oxygen in each molecule. 2 of those molecules, with the 6 atoms of oxygen in those 2 molecules surrounding a calcium ion in bedrock, can pull the calcium ion out of the bedrock and produce calcium bicarbonate, and thus separate the calcium from bedrock. If you left an ocean on a planet without a moon, without carbon dioxide pushed into the water, you could never pull the calcium out of the bedrock, which means that you could never create the acidic kind of qualities that oxidizes the calcium in bedrock, like acid rain above the ocean. But in the ocean, this is the process that's still happening. And that's how you pull the calcium out of bedrock. If it wasn't for the moon, it would just be clear water sitting. It would just be fresh water sitting. It would be a freshwater ocean. It wouldn't be a salt water ocean, because you wouldn't be able to pull the bedrock. And once you pull the kingpin that makes the rock out of the rock, and it turns into clay, and then you can release all the minerals, all the elements that are held within the rock, which is what creates life. That is the building blocks of life. Without carbon dioxide entering into the equation in the first place. And so the moon brings the carbon dioxide into the oceans and allows this digesting of the ocean floor. And so we see whatever bought the oceans bought the moon. So this whole process, so you could have salty water, which is what we see, which is what allows the life that once existed on Mars to now exist on Earth, this whole process that had been brought to Earth. And now we see the Luciferian agenda. So we can see that, on Mars, the Luciferian agenda would have been, the rising sun would have, Lucifer, the Luciferian planet would have been Earth. Now on Mars it would have been Earth, but on Earth, the next planet we want to go to is going to be closer to the sun. It's going to be Venus. So this is all about creating the chaos on this planet, so that this planet can go through the same destructive process that went on Mars, that caused Valles Marianis, where all the oceans drained down what seemed to into the core, but it was a dimensional tear between Mars and Earth. Now they want to do the same thing with the Large Hadron Collider, but the Large Hadron Collider needs the negative karma, which is what my original videos were all about. You remember when I made the back in one of my first videos, if I go right down, you have to go right down. And I showed you we are being invaded by Atlantis, as in a Martian think tank, where I show you the whole how the ocean, how the water from the Great Flood came from Mars, and
amounts of carbon dioxide as the actual granite rock gets broken down, and then water is forced down into this dissolving bedrock, and it takes a lot of the silicates, which are quite fine. Well, one of the finest, not as fine as carbon, but Marianis. And Valles Marianis is extraordinary. It's absolutely beyond. It's beyond your wildest beliefs in size and geography. First thing is, it's a whopping 4,000 kilometers long, and it's almost, well, it is perfectly straight, with what looks like a detonation hole in the middle. 4,000 kilometers long. That's like as big as one of our continents or something. It's 7 kilometers deep. It is just perfectly straight. It's an incredible fault line. And when it was discovered, before 1971, but
there we go. But that is the split it caused when it opened up and magma spewed each way. We didn't just take the oceans from Mars, we took its magma and it expanded our Earth massively, and it pulled it because it increased the mass of our Earth so massively. Earth expanded with all the magma, and it took the water from Mars, but it took the central core of Mars as well, and it expanded Earth massively, but it increased the mass of Earth. And Earth didn't orbit the sun before this. It orbited another sun, as in the sun that we're just seeing right now, the red Cassini. And we were thrown from that system with our added density, and whilst we were passing what we see as the sun now, we were thrown into that sun. And when our Earth massively expanded, and this is the tear, this is the membrane that divides two levels of intelligence. This is the real Iron Curtain that separates one intelligence from the other, and the big split that runs from the Kamchatka Peninsula, where we get the second largest volcano on the planet, linking the biggest volcano on the planet, which is Hawaii. This massive underwater seamount chain that is the split point. And as I often talk about, how you can see at the bottom of the Pacific the wave of magma that smashed through between the bottom of South America and Antarctica there and came through. Now I know this because I was shown these. I was all shown this when I was writing Laughing Gas, and I was asking all my questions, and I had my big line of inquiries. I connected to the gods. I was taken through this whole thing. I literally got on a plane on the day they fired up the Large Hadron Collider to go off and write my book. And I said, why do you, and that literally flew over when they were firing the thing up on the 10th, the 9th, or the 8th, 10-9-8, as in the arrival to the Big Bang. And what is a massive Big Bang on this planet? It's a bomb. It's a bomb it's the same bomb that ended Mars, that caused this massive calamity. They want to create the same karma. This is what Pete Hegseth, he doesn't know he's doing this. He's in this other story. He doesn't know that he is a pawn in in a much, much darker story. And if this story succeeds, you don't go to Venus. You stay as a ghost here on Earth, and you live in purgatory for thousands of years until your vibration can be raised high enough to come back to the planet to come back to sustainable life again. But it takes a massive amount of time, because once you throw this country into absolute economic collapse and you drive everyone into a famine and a hate and a terrifying lack, which is the fundamental basis of capitalism, is to drive lack, to create a lack, to push the prices up. And so it seems so profitable to trash everything right now and to drive this whole, to break this wonderful thing that you've got all at the moment, to break it all, to create this massive agenda, to create the famine and that sort of stuff. But what happens is you just take the vibration to a very, very desperate level where you just pray for death, because there's nothing, and everyone becomes savage in the hunger. Hungry man is an angry man, remember. And this is what they want to create by what they're about to do. What Hegseth is trying to unfold here is to drive the whole world into absolute war and hate. And this is what they're trying to do. This is the agenda that they're desperately trying to do at this point, to try and create the hate. Of course, what's happening in America is that America's now, Trump wants his Nobel Peace Prize and that sort of stuff. So he wants to try and make out that they're a peaceful nation, even though the first thing he did was bomb Iran and just bombs country left, right, and centre. And he goes on about how the war would have never happened in the Ukraine, and yet then he brags about being the one who supplies the first missiles. What does he say? Obama supplies sheets, he supplied missiles, as in Obama supplied. When I first heard that, I thought, sheet? What's a sheet missile? And I literally looked up sheet missiles when he said that. I thought, what's a sheet missile? Is it like another type of javelin? Didn't realise it was just like bed sheets. That Obama was supplying bed sheets and Trump was supplying missiles and weapons. He was the first one who armed them. And then, more shots of the second sun. Obviously this is what this is all agenda's about. Just finishing there, this is what this agenda is all about right now, is delivering this whole plane into war, ready so we can do the same thing and repeat all the same things that happened on Mars. And everything is trying to stop. This story's been going from planet to planet to planet over a very, very, it's been going on for a very, very long time. Worlds falling, each world's falling after world's falling. And the next world that's going to fall is going to be Venus. Sometime this isn't about time. This invades different timelines. And this is about worlds that once existed, that are going back in time and are invading bygone worlds and destroying their ancestry, wiping them out from their onset, from their beginning. It's a very, and then when you destroy things from the beginning, you plunge those souls into you take away their ability to exist in the now, because you take away their past, and so you plunge them into the astral. You plunge beings into the astral. So this is an invasion on the whole universe, on sentiency, if you like, in itself. That's what this is all about. These are demons, and of course the only way to solve these problems is now to bring the demons into this realm, which is what's really happening here, so they can come back into the table of life and experience, and to try and stop this massive process of allowing Earth, because Earth has never had a future beyond this time. And so what the plan is, to bring these souls in here and to give Earth the first chance of having a future beyond this. It's never had a future. Earth died in February, March, in the old time. I'm an old Earth soul, which means I'm not an old soul. I'm from the old Earth, and I was bounced back to what we sort of see someone like Ingersoll Lockwood, who wrote, The Last President and The Adventures of Baron von Trump, and many of you have just seen that Baron Trump just made millions and millions by shorting on Bitcoin, and apparently the same person's just done a half a billion dollar short. Just I saw yesterday that the same guy just done a $500 million short on Bitcoin again, expecting it to go down. So he's either going to lose $500 million, or that he's betting that it's all going to go down and to make trillions and trillions. And if it's all to do with Trump, then this could be their way of, as supposedly, hearing all these stories about, the stable coins and how the whole stable coin and how the whole Bitcoin system really has all been created to solve the American debt crisis. If they crash Bitcoin now, it would take out a lot of people's money, but the government would orchestrate it. They would make lots of money. The people would lose lots of money. It would be the biggest kick in the nuts to Russia, because so much of the Russian economy is kind of funded by Bitcoin. This would be a real way to not only just to block them selling their oil, but to destroy the Bitcoin now and to take all the wealth in Bitcoin and put it all back. Solve the debt crisis, break Russia, and nick everyone's wealth. Remember when Elon Musk said he was going to sell his cars in Bitcoin, and everyone's just like, yeah, and Bitcoin went through the roof, and then he just shorted on the whole thing, sold the whole stock, shorted on it, made ridiculous amounts of money, and basically deceived every person, not just in America, but every person who was invested in Bitcoin around the world, basically. That's Elon Musk. 2 sons. What caused this meteorite to change its path over Mexico? I'm not going to play the video, but it comes down and then it shoots up, and you see this object suddenly appear here, and it shoots up and its course is changed. Clearly something is showing its power to change the course of these objects. Now that's the change of karma. This is karma. All of these objects are karma, as I understand it. And so this is the hand. This is basically, these are ambassadors of God, if you like, flying these things, as best as I can see it, because they can change the course of that. That was going to hit this city, and then it had its course changed. So we are in the power of a tremendous, powerful intelligence that can change the course of these things at will. You're seeing the evidence of that. You're seeing the evidence, a message given directly to Pete Hegseth that he has to land in Britain with his little message that he is not the tiniest little particle. Imagine if it was that thing that hit his plane. Would he still be here? Would America still have a Secretary of War? He's just getting a little message here of what he's playing with. And then the second one that gets hit lands in Denver Airport. Come on, man. It's just like, there's a very clear message. You might not want to see it. You might not believe it. But what are you choosing not to see blatantly? The blatancy of this. This is where, ironically, look, October the 14th, that's when the storm came in. That's when the tidal surge began, right on the 14th, 13th, 14th, last quarter. So it came in on the first quarter, goes out on the third quarter, last quarter, exactly what we're expecting to see. And now we're seeing the most incredible highest spew from, I know that's not the shot there, I might have another shot of it coming up, but the most incredibly high spew that they've seen coming out of Kilauea. Right when we're seeing the big blue one, right up there, right in front of us. It's just like, that I opened with that video showing you, it's nearly at its directly point where we are right at its exit point, where we're closest to the big blue Kachina. So this is a massive battle between what you can see is the big blue Kachina and Saturn. That's really what when you see this, you're seeing Saturn, this is the blue Kachina and the red Kachina, and this is Saturn, and this is our Sun and Earth and Mars and Venus and Mercury. And this is a battle between Saturn and Jupiter. Always has been. Always has been this big system that we've done everything to hide. This massive system. And then, remember I said to you, if Britain carried on with its choice of trying to feed Europe into a massive war against Russia, and to save the US dollar and to make the British pound great again, and to do our old-fashioned thing that we've done for so long, that the last thing we would hear in the last days was a increased uptick in seismic data coming from the Azores. Remember where the Azores is? The Azores, the dividing line between the Eurasian plate and the African plate. That is the kind of like the fault line that runs underneath the Med. It goes out and splits the Atlantic north and south, not east and west like the what do they call it, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, but the fault line that joins that ridge is where it joins. That is the Azores. And no, Sean, come here, Sean. Let me go out. Do you want to go? Let's go let the doggy out. Go on in, sweetheart. Go on in. Let me go out, sweetheart. Go on in, sweetheart. Go on in. Off you go then. Go on in. Go on in. Off you go. No. Go on. That is the Azores, and I said if we carried on with our agenda, the last thing that we would hear in Europe, in Britain, is an uptick in seismic data coming from the Azores, just like we had just before the tsunami struck in 1606. On the 20th of January, again, just like the big flyby that I predicted would happen on the 20th of January. Where was it? Do you remember the not that one, the 20th of January 2017, I predicted it and it would come in, and let's go right back, sorry. But that's the one I turned up in America for, and I said, "Oh my goodness me! You're going to see it on the 17th of, I think it was something like the 17th of January, no, 17th of August 2017, and it came in exactly on schedule, literally on the day." And the one I'm talking about is that one, the most incredible shot. And I said, "You're going to see it coming in and going out 20th of January." And Carlos Ferrada's big prediction on the 20th of January 1939 came exactly when he said. And of course, you know, we've seen all the data with this thing moves exactly like clockwork. Every part of it is utterly predictable. We've been watching it now I've been watching it now with you guys since, using the data that's come in since 2010, 2011, and I've been making videos with you since 2014. So I'm coming up almost now to the exact cycle of Jupiter, but I've been watching this one full cycle of Jupiter, 12 years. Not that Jupiter has exactly a 12-year cycle. It doesn't actually. It has a 13-month cycle. Is that right? 13 months? No, sorry, it has an 11-month cycle. But we perceive that as a 12-year cycle because it takes 12 years for it to arrive back to the same place it was 12 years before. But anyway, I said she'd see the data as it comes in, and if you chose to go to war with the gods to save this whole planet from you, so you could have a possible future, so you wouldn't spend 1800 minimum years bodiless, as a ghost, desperately just not wanting to see what you've been done, and the only people you can work with are demonic forces that can only feed you in hate into another world. You have to be hateful. You can only exist and be transmitted into another world in hate, not in love. You can never touch love, never touch beauty. You can only exist in absolute hate. You have to be hateful. That's your only transmission corridor, pure hate, which is where you go to if you go with this agenda. You know, Pete, I hate to say it, but you have to stay on there. If you achieve in your agenda, you will stay on there. You will not go through to this other space. You will stay here in hate, and you'll be transmitted into this Venus as you see this, as you might not see this where this is really going, what the agenda would really be. You don't go to your Atlantean brethren go off and rule over Venus. You stay here as a ghost, and you exist as a demon in Venus, doing the most heinous things as you're asking your fellow man to do to your fellow man, which you call do unto one as you would have done unto yourself. That's what you're talking about, going to war with the left wing. Anyone who doesn't share your barbaric Christian values. Well, there you go. You've got your recent sign, and when this goes, this is the fault line that shifts. This is the fault line that runs under the Atlantic that causes the massive seismology that we've seen. What we call the mud floods here today. This is where it starts. When they go bang, and that fault line shifts, and the whole plate shifts, because the oceans bunch up in the northern hemisphere, and they put so much pressure that the plate shifts, and suddenly you get the tsunami. This is the indicator that you're about to enter into that. You're getting all the signs. You're all choosing this. We're all part of this. Whether you have the courage to speak or not, whether you're a silent, whether you sit on the wall between all of this and just play Humpty, or whether you've got the courage to jump off the fence and speak truth, whichever side of you are, you're all just choosing where you go after this by who you are now. You will spend 1,000, maybe 2,000, maybe 10,000 years pondering from a good place or a bad place what you did and you didn't do in these months and these days now. All of us will ponder on what we would, could and should have done rather than what we did do. This is all of our opportunity to shine or not shine, to be or not be. That is the question. So you can see where we're heading to Taylor Swift, can't you? You know, you just got incredible shots of this object going by. Look at that. One of the last videos posted by a WSO, and then he just realised that we just weren't interested. We just couldn't touch. We couldn't believe it because we were all just locked into different. The environmentalists were locked into a carbon zero story, and they wanted to kind of build nuclear power stations on fault lines and tsunami hotspots, and they couldn't get their head out of that. That was their solution to saving the world, which is ironically why the right wing now hate the left wing, and it's going to be the very fuel that Hegseth and Trump is going to use to drive the right wing to do what they're about to do, what they are planning to do to the left wing, as in Hegseth's speech, all because we can't see this system. He can't see the system either. We live in lies, so they are going to use our carbon zero lies to make them hate us enough to do what Hegseth describes in that massive speech, which is what they want us to do. Ironically, so many incredible shots of it coming through, most incredible one after the other, no ending shots. Remember that shot came in on the 1st of September 2019. I was like, look how it's going to be most incredible, assuming it was coming into the sun, still believing in the heliocentric model myself, and then suddenly seeing it coming in and then clearly going out. It is not orbiting our sun at all. It has no interest in our sun whatsoever. It is in another relationship with something over here. But of course, or beyond belief, because we live in a 500-year-old antiquated model, a static sun antiquated model that doesn't demonstrate or represent any of the real goings on that you really live in. And yet you have the absolute empirical evidence there, just caught on a webcam by Alex Lujan on the first of a webcam on Mexico webcams de Mexico, whatever it's called. But that was another incredible skywatcher. But I was just talking about 2023. That's what's about to happen. See how much how far it was away from us there. It was just eclipsing. Now the big blue object is going to be much, much closer. It's not just going to be a tiny speck. It's going to be much, much closer to us than it was in 2020. That was obviously as I opened up to going back to Calvin Looking for Hobbes, his video, his incredible shot. But do you remember? And then we see this again in November 2022, getting bigger, getting closer every time, edging a little bit closer. And then I said, look out for this, you're going to see it. I told you the dates you were going to see it. I said, you're going to see exactly that lenticular cloud on its side, what you're going to call a lenticular cloud. There's going to be one, and then there's going to be two. Bam, bam. And then you see the big blue Kachina right over the biggest massive golf tournament. None of this we can believe. None of this we can touch. Most of us haven't got the balls to talk the truth, to allow this to exist, because we belong to other gods. And that's okay. It's okay to belong to other gods. It's just that whether you want to fulfill the agenda of this other god, or whether it's time to change sides, whether you want to change lanes, you're all deciding now, and you're going to be kind of like pondering your decisions now over the next few thousand years. Oh yeah, you really are. And anyway, he caught all of this in 2022, and that's when he made his last video, and he was just like, you know what, you guys just ain't interested. The powers that be have shut all our channels down. They've, I've never made any money on advertising. If you look on my channel, and I show you on my channel, you'll see there's no monetize options. Everything's been deleted off my channel. No option of even making any money out on my channel. I have to do this all for the love. I'm always constantly brassing, always scraping by, struggling really massively, but I do this for the love. I really do. And like I always say, if you please help me if you want to help me, but very few people can really, and I get it as well. You've all got other things that are more important. So we've got, what's her name? Taylor Swift here. As a young girl there, and I see a lot of being bombarded by these videos of Ophelia, and so we see her as a young girl there. I don't know how old she was there, and now we're seeing her singing this, and I've been saturated by her shot. And this was obviously the shot I opened. Remember, you're just getting this arc of light here. So as we come in front of this, it's been in the same place. We come to this same place every. Like I say, that's way beyond the sun, and that's between us and the sunlight is just hitting it. That's not the light from this object hitting. That's the light of our sun hitting this object. We're about to literally go right across the front edge of this. What's that one? Oh, that's what I was looking for. These are the massive shots of Kilauea going absolutely crazy as we get super close to the big blue one now, which is the heaven, if you like, our real true heaven. As in the place where you go when you're ready to work with other beings, where you're not in kind of Pete Hegseth mindset, where just everyone is someone to kill, and you're trying to get your brethren to kill your neighbour, and enter into this horrible kind of warfare, power craze mentality where you're just like where do unto one, do unto one as you would do unto someone, however it goes, as you would do have done unto yourself, or whatever. That phrase, you know, it's I think we saw that sign, that shot, didn't we? That was on the 13th of October. Just been watching XRP, ironically, because I used to have thousands and thousands. I used to have Bitcoin and XRP when I first started this, and my friends told me to get it, and I had it all on my computer, and I had it all on written down on a bit of paper. And when I made my first video, about Planet X, so I'd written my whole story, and I was told, write the story, laughing gas, of Britain being used as a Trojan horse to break up the European alliance and feed Europe into a war against Russia, and how we would all rise up and overcome this, and that peace would actually at the very last minute be waged on this planet, because those that were driving this suddenly realised that their agenda, it was all being changed, and they were being given Earth, that the ego agenda that was trying to destroy Earth so it could invade the next world and move on, as this has been moving through the universe, invading world after world, that it would end here, and the ego soul group would actually be given you and I, those of us that would be willing to take on the soul group, and so that they could be reborn in us and have they wouldn't be born into this earth in like you were born and I were born. They would arrive in those human beings that were the receptacles for those egos that had chosen to lower their vibration enough to take on the ego soul group, so it could come back to the table of life through us and end this line of hate. This line of hate. When I made my first video about planets, I don't know if you remember, but where was it? I literally I've got to go way back. Where is it? We go about this one here, and I made the video about the planets, and then my truck caught fire outside. I was supposed to be living in the truck. I stayed in my mate's house, but my truck just burst into flames directly whilst this video was loading. Was it this video? I guess it's the one before. So whilst that video was loading, I just done this big political thing in Glastonbury where we kind of where we built the House of Commons, which was kind of all about the House of Lords ruling over the House of Commons by secrets of a sexual nature, and we rebuilt the whole thing and turned the House of Commons into a big space. And ironically, I was going to go to Glastonbury this year and I was going to do it, but we invaded Iran, and it broke my heart on the solstice, and I was gathering and I couldn't go and party with everyone, and Norman Cook, Fatboy Slim came and played in our bar, and it was all just so exciting. I just couldn't go and party, even though, you know, on the night of the election when I'd run for government in 2001, he'd come and played at our party, and he was massive then. He was pulling a million people on a beach. So for him to come along and want to play at our party, and then he wanted to come and play at our bar, and it was so exciting, but I couldn't be there and celebrate at that time. So apologies about that, but so I missed a massive year this year in the bar that I've worked on, you know, the Gorilla Bar, for so long, and you know, we've had his son coming in and playing quite a few times, and we get a bit of an all-star cast wanting to come and play in the Gorilla Bar, and join the kind of like the energy, and but I couldn't be in the bar on that day because of the war thing. I couldn't do that, and I'm so sorry about that. But but anyway, I made that video, and then my truck blew up outside, and I was supposed to be in it. And fortunately, my friend had said, stay in my spare room. So and they destroyed all I had Bitcoin, XRP, all that sort of stuff, all in there, and And ironically, on another little computer, my old little computer, with all my writing, which much of it had been transferred onto most of it had been transferred onto the computer, but I never transferred. I had the codes all written down. I had them in my little computer, and they took that out. So they got me. You got me good. You got me good. You cost me, what is it, like, how much is Bitcoin now? God, so you must have taken, like, well, now it would be hundreds of thousands. Hundreds. I'd be probably near a millionaire now. And but hey, you got me good, guys. You got me good. You got me good. But I'm not bitter. I'm just like, that's just what I offer up to the gods. Thank you for the opportunity, for giving me the power to speak. But of course, they would turn around and say to me, David, what led you here is not us, it's by your choices of what you chose to do, what you chose to speak. First message I got from his truly, or yours truly, from up there when I was making my first messages, and I got my first message, and then I wrote it all down. I couldn't believe I got it, and then I couldn't really quite believe it myself, and I wanted to make my communication again, and I didn't know how to open up that door with that which had spoken to me, and I'd spent another kind of nearly 2 years trying to open up that same door when I'd been given my first message about the Vallis Marianis, about Mars, about my ego, about the big story that's unfolding now, and this whole thing that enables me to speak so much. And then when I'd finished Laughing Gas. I didn't know I'd finished Laughing Gas, but I was up in the mountains and I'd finished Laughing Gas, and I was on the last page. And I didn't know it was the last page, but I kind of did. It's like things that we actually know that we pretend that we don't know. Things that we can see right in front of us that we pretend we can't see. Things that are going on that we know are going on that we pretend that we don't know what's going on. And we play really ignorant to it all. And that was such the case. And I decided to go and have a hot spring. And I was up in the Himalayas. I'd locked myself away for 6 months at a time in winter in the Himalayas, so I could really and just do my 6 hours writing practice every day, as in writing for 6 hours a day, which meant sometimes sitting there for 10, 12, 15 hours sometimes to do 6 hours of writing a day. And then I got to the end of this whole thing, and I decided I was going to go to the hot springs in Vashisht near Manali, and I was writing the memoirs of a Hashfudge salesman, ironically, and I was writing Laughing Gas as well. And I always knew that I was going to release the memoirs of a Hashfudge salesman at the end of this whole process. So there's another book coming at some point, but what a wonderful place to write the memoirs of a Hashfudge salesman in Manali, where the finest ganja comes from, and I get this message at the end, on the last page, so I go and have a hot spring, and I go to this hot spring. It's dead at night, and I get into the temple where the hot spring is, very, very hot. And it took me ages to get in because it was so frigging hot. They turned the temperature up because when it's snowing, really heavy snow, and it's snow all around the hot pools, they let more hot water into this temple. So it gets really hot in the cold, but it's amazing. You get in there. Anyway, I was sitting in there, dead of night, on my own, no one around, all this mist coming out because of all the snow all around. And this guy just walks in, he can't see me in the steam and the mist, and he just gets in, the dead of night, gets in like the water's not even hot, just climbs straight in, like the water wasn't even slightly hot, just casually gets in and just drops himself into this water. And I watch him, I can see him, just it's pitch black, there's no source of light, but there's from the stars and what have you, and probably a few lamps here and there, or some kind of, but basically it's pretty much pitch black. But I can see his outline as he gets in the water, like it's not even hot, and he just gets in, and he just sits there, and I said, you did that like it weren't even hot. And he just nods, he doesn't say anything, and he just walks over in the water and sits right next to me, almost invading my space a little bit, but not that close to me, but it was very kind of like he was coming to sit next to me, and I was just like, and he said, I've got a message for you. And I said, oh, what's that? And he said, are you ready for this? And I said, yeah. And he said, okay. He said, I don't know what this is going to mean to you. He said, but the message is, you're finished. And as soon as he said it, tears started running down my face, because I knew exactly I was at the end of Laughing Gas. The mission was complete. I'd written the book. Now I needed to polish it and edit it and shine it and do that was the end of the book, and that that I was going to have to put it into the next gear. That it was the end of the communication with the highest thing, and it was going to be the end of this thing, and I didn't want it to end because I'd opened up this connection with divinity, and it was the most incredible thing that had ever happened to my life writing Laughing Gas, and I knew that this door was going to now close, and it was just like, oh my goodness me, now I had to kind of like, now I was going to have to become a warrior of light and speak truth, not just write truth, but I was going to have to stand on a frontier and speak a truth, which is going to be very awkward for me and very difficult for me. And when I try and speak this truth, if those who can't take it, I feel like I'm invading their space, so I stay away from them. If I feel at all like they feel like I'm mad, I push them up. I push them away. I can't help pushing them away. It's not personal to them. It's just I don't want to turn them into someone that goes into that kind of cynic where they look down their nose at you and they become that being. And I feel like I trigger that in certain people. So I don't want to make them be that being. I'd rather stay away from them rather than see them become this cynical kind of like looking down their nose at you, kind of like, you know. And it's just like, some people are like, you know, I have friends in Glastonbury that literally you speak to and you speak about this stuff and they're like, shush. And it's just like, and it's like a dagger through your heart when they do that. Someone you see as a friend who just speaks to you like that. So I push a lot of people away, not meaning to, but it's just trying to do this work means you have to take an enormous amount of space. And anyway, he said, oh, there's another message. And I said, what's that? And he said, is there something you've been trying to do? And I said, yeah. As in, I've been trying to recreate that conversation. I have that same conversation, you know, trying to write it out. I'd lost the original writing of it. I have all the rest of the writing, and yet the communication I had with was completely gone. The space in my kind of, like, you used to call it my odd bits folder, and it was not in the odd bits folder. And I couldn't find it. And though I had the message inside of me, to try and rewrite that message as if it had come from, was just like almost impossible. It just felt like a fabrication of. It felt like it didn't feel right to read. I wanted to find the original and I couldn't find it. And he said, "Is there something you're trying to do something you've been really trying to do, and that you really want to do, but you just don't know how to do?" And I said, I was just like, yeah. And he said, you can do it now. And I said, what? I could just get out of this hot spring, go back to my place, sit down, and do that again. Open that door. And he went, yeah. And I literally went back and I sat down at the computer, and the message came through, and I said, "You're there, aren't you?" And the message I got was, "I've always been here." And as I went to ask another question, it said, "Understand, David, you knocked on my door. You came to me with your line of inquiry." As in, you know, you're gonna, when you realise what you're taking on here, you're gonna wonder, God, maybe innocence is bliss. Maybe I don't want to know all this. Maybe, but actually, you know, it's our lines of inquiries, and you know, you don't need wisdom to speak truth. You don't need brains. You need something else. You need balls. You need a real set of balls, man or woman. You need a real set of balls to speak truth. And many of you are gonna, well, you know, you are what you are. You do what you do, and you have the courage to speak, or not. And remember the Colburn Bible. We're not punished for the mistakes we make. We're punished for the mistakes we fail to rectify. What else did it say at the end? When they came down from their hiding places, they had no memory of who they were. They were as babbling fools. Their guides and gods were gone. They'd broken clean of them because they couldn't they couldn't speak their own truths. They couldn't live true to their own souls. So they'd been desouled. Their souls had left them, gone. They'd given themselves to their egos. They were the property of another god, the god of babbling fools and idiots and hatred, depleted uranium dumping, warmongering monsters that would turn this beautiful world into what we see today, a world of so anyway, so whether you rise to the challenge or not, you're in it now. You're at that juncture. You're at that juncture. Good luck through this trip, through this journey, and it's a big time. Sorry, it's such a long message. Don't know what else to do. Don't know how else to get around it. But you're at this juncture now, and I've had to stay away from a lot of people because I know it's just my message is too weird for most people on this plane. The truth be told, I can say most of the left wing are just sworn to the carbon zero agenda of building nuclear power stations on fault lines. You're just giving environmentalists power to kind of like a whole new class system built on destroying a planet environmentally, throwing environmental bullshit at a planet to create a whole kind of new power system that we haven't got any abundant clean energy agenda running at all. We just want to build nuclear power stations on tsunami hotspots in the name of stopping the carbon dioxide spewing out of volcanoes on fault lines. And the whole Ukraine thing is just to kind of get the kind of like the lithium and so they can build the batteries, and if you build all these kind of lithium batteries and have all these kind of fire hazard cars going everywhere that are only utterly dependent on nuclear power stations, what would be the easiest way to solve this problem? If you got rid of one country right now to save this world, what country would you get rid of? What country is taking the bait? What country is leading Europe into war? What would be the easiest solution for Britain right now? What would save this world? You can see where, let's say, seeing is believing. That's what we were led to believe. Now we realise believing is just choosing not to see what's happening right in front of you. So I said we end on this, on the fate of Ophelia. Because who is Ophelia? Who is Ophelia? And in the story of, because the Tempest, you remember the Tempest where we have the story of Prospero, who's one of two brothers. And one brother shafts the other brother and tries to kill him. Well, in the story of Hamlet, where we discover, where we hear the story of Ophelia, it's the same story, isn't it? It's a very similar story. One brother, Hamlet gets a message from his dead father, who's been murdered by his brother. The king's brother has murdered him with poison. He's poisoned him some interesting way, and he asks his son Hamlet from the other side as a ghost to take revenge for his death. and he doesn't know how to deal with it. He doesn't know how to deal with it, and then I think he discovers the skull of the king's jester. What was in it? I think I knew him well. And he holds the skull up. Well, I knew him well. What was that name? I knew him well. Anyway, he holds it up, and it was just like, and suddenly he gets the idea that his friend has turned up, and he's gonna produce a play where he's gonna show the story of what happened to his father in the form of a play, and his what would it be? His uncle, he's the king, his father's brother, who's now king. He's taken his throne, taken his father's throne, and he would have become king. So he's basically the prince who's now the king. The new king has got his own son who's now in line for the throne, because so he's taken his kingdom away from him. He's taken basically the kingdom's been taken from Hamlet's father, but also effectively from him as well, because now he's not really first in line to the throne anymore. And so now he's bitter, and so he performs this play. Now Ophelia is the noble's daughter, who was effectively going to be queen, and she's in love with him. But now it's all become complicated, because now he's no longer in line to the throne, and Ophelia's father is trying to do all sorts of cunning business and everything else like that to make everything happen, to try and get Ophelia to kind of like to be in a place of power, because then he's going to be powerful. So Ophelia's father is a conniving kind of like, he's just playing all sides and manipulating everything. And now the king has kind of like got an idea that maybe Hamlet has an idea of what's happened, or there's some kind of, so he's trying to say that Hamlet's mad. Hamlet's gone mad, and Ophelia is in the middle of all of this political kind of like mayhem, and because she's the main tool of everything, because she's this beautiful, lovely woman who's totally in love with Hamlet, and everything would be perfect except that she's in the middle of all the politics between everything, and then Hamlet goes crazy and mad in the whole thing, and the connivingness of what happens. There's someone hiding, he doesn't realise it's Ophelia's father, and of course kills who's manipulating behind the kind of like in the throes, and runs the dagger into the kind of like, and basically ends up killing her father. And that makes, when her father's killed and she's in the midst of it all, now she knows she's just a pawn in someone else's game, and she just loses it, and she just runs off into the woods and basically commits suicide, because it just overwhelms her. She's lost everything. She's lost her father, she's lost her lover, she's lost all the potential future. It's all gone to pot in the madness and the greed of all of these people around her that have gone crazy in their obsession of power and control. So who is Ophelia? Who is Ophelia really? It's us. Ophelia represents us. We're in the midst of all of those who've lost their mind, that just see us as pawns in that massive plane. They see our beauty and they just want to control it for their own ends, to plunge everything around. We are Ophelia. I am Ophelia. You are Ophelia. We are Ophelia. Isn't that interesting that, she's come of age and produced this most incredible song? I saw it at first and I thought, oh my God. But now I see why I've been plagued by her video on YouTube, because it's being hit on so much. The video's been, because it is an incredible tune, it's an incredible message, it's an incredible piece of work actually. Because it really makes you think of, because she talks about herself, that if she needs to come back to what she wants, as me, myself and I. My agenda, not your agenda, not to go under the wheels of all of your horrible agendas. To stay true to me, to stay true to where I want to be, to stay true to my true values, not to become part of excess war machine, not to become part of hate, not to pick up the gun and aim it at your brethren and go to war with your brethren. Not to be sucked into this evil agenda. This is Taylor Swift coming of age. She wrote this herself. She put this together herself. This is an incredible piece of work. It really is. It's an incredible piece of work. So even though I was besieged by kind of like seeing this, like when I saw it, of course, when I wrote Laughing Gas tells the most incredible Shakespearean conspiracy tale. It tells the real tale of why it was written. That is the Gnostic Bible. It wasn't the kind of like, when as soon as Elizabeth I died, the King James version was released directly after her death. It wasn't released by her. It may kind of offer her as in the name of Elizabeth, but this the Protestant Bible that came out was ran contrary to everything that she was about. Her Bible was Shakespeare. That is the Gnostic Bible. Shakespeare is the true Gnostic Bible, as in the Bible that was created by John Dee and Sir Francis Bacon when they put together and they reformed the English language to make it, contractual law and everything else like that, but to make Britain powerful again against the Catholics that just wanted to carve this country up and feed us all into a war. That's why this whole thing, when you're talking about Ariel in Ariel, this massive, the Ariel that Prospero uses in the Tempest. Ariel is this planet, the same planet that caused the destruction of the Armada, where you see Sir Francis Drake playing bowls. When the massive fleet is coming in, all you've got to do is take the fleet out. You stop the soldiers. You don't take the fleet out. You don't stop the soldiers. And yet Sir Francis Drake is just playing bowls when the fleet sails by. He doesn't engage in an act of war when this celestial object is about. Notice Trump will no longer supply weapons out. He's playing completely peaceful because he knows he's got Hexeth, he's got all these people that can in their position, but they're not going to go to war with the rest of the world. They're going to look like they're going to go to war with the rest of the world. They've got their guns out to the rest of the world, but they're going to war with who? Who are they about to take out? Who are they about to annihilate? Who are they going to war with? You got all the kind of you got all these different conventions and everything else like that are there to protect humanity in a state of war. But what conventions are there to protect you from your country going to war with you? What stops them? There is no legislation for them. They can come at you with hollow point ammunition, anything they like. They can come to you. They can come and do it on the homeland in the name of Homeland Security. There is nothing that they can't do to you in the name of Homeland Security. There's no legislation in place to protect you from Hexeth and Trump. And now they're just using this religious hatred to kind of to create this Catholic agenda. And you know what the Catholics do. You know what they've always done. So it's quite a powerful message from Taylor Swift. Whether she's just being used by a higher power or what, but it's quite an interesting. There's a very interesting message because, believe it or not, you are Ophelia. I am Ophelia. We are Ophelia. So that's going to leave it. You've got Ariel flying by at the moment, seeing all the shots of it. Same thing, same time, all the same influence. When the Tempest was written, it was influenced because of the Great Tempest. The first play was performed just 2 years after 1588, when the Tempest happened. And it took all, Sir Francis Bacon, he obviously produced the Tempest, and he wrote that in what we call Queen's English, as in he was a grammarian. He came up with past, present, and future tense, possessive and non-possessive text. But he took all of Britain's finest work and wrote it in what we now term as Queen's English, with grammar. That's what we'd understand grammar. As in, like I say, past, present, future, possessive and non-possessive text. It was a whole new era. A new era. And they want to take us back, and we're not going back. Hexeth wants to take you back into barbarianism. And that's not the direction this planet is going. But what he brings in is coming in now. And so we're going to have to move through this thing, and you can see what he's going to do. And And you can see why they can blame the left wing. And of course, the left wing didn't really do all this stuff. We were fed all this science by those profiteering, those who were just using the greed and these narratives to kind of. And we just, if you've got someone who wants to save the world, and then you feed them a lie, and you say, listen, if you put the gun to your head now, you're going to save the planet. A lot of people might believe that. If you put the gun to someone else's head now, you're going to save the planet. A lot of people might believe that. If you build a nuclear power station on Hinkley Point, the biggest tsunami hotspot, if you build one on Fukushima, the second biggest tsunami hotspot in the world, you're going to save the planet. If you pile up all of the waste uranium from Fukushima, and you store it above the nuclear reactor on the biggest tsunami hotspot in Japan, that's going to save the planet. These are the type of logic that's been fed into us. We don't realise the narratives we take on, which lower our vibration and take us into the point where we, like Ophelia, like Hamlet himself, we just go mad. We go mad. There's nothing else. There's nothing left for us. We go mad. It's the only thing that can happen. And when we go mad, we're on the way to the grave. What's the song? I think you might see the song from a different perspective, because she took a poke at Trump, didn't she? She said that she had something to say about Trump's modus operandi, and she got seriously attacked by him. And then she produces this, and look at her. She looks like a beautiful woman there. She's become a woman. And I've got a funny feeling she's fallen in love with this man. And I think that when we fall in love, we really fall in love. We channel beauty. We channel incredible beauty. And I think this is, there's some beautiful words in this. There's some beautiful sentiment. She's carrying some really kind of like really interesting message here. So interesting times. But it's all about who you are. Not who they are. You might be thinking this is about them and them and them and them. This is all about you. It's about who you are. Whether you've got the balls to take a stand, whether you're a humpty and you're just going to sit on the dividing line and just spend the next few thousand years being ruled by the Romans, stuck on the earth realm, and having to keep being crucified at the end of each life, crying out to God, Jesus, God, why have you forsaken me? And then come back to this moment and realizing it wasn't God that forsake you. It was you that forsaken God. When you didn't take the stand, when you knew you had to, when everything was waiting on you. So many of you are waiting for Jesus to turn up. I promise you, Jesus came to try and empower you so you might turn up in your moment of need. So you might become and embody Jesus in your being. To be or not to be, that is the question. Au revoir. Ciao. Honey in the heart. May you be guided by divine light. Good luck for you this time. Help each other. Be the best person you can be. Do the best things you can do. Be generous. Be kind. Don't leave here with any regrets that you didn't do all the things that you wanted to do and achieve. All the things. I guarantee you right now, she's feeling chuffed to bits that she's just produced that. It's interesting words. Interesting words. Interesting choice of words. Interesting times. Ciao.